Hi there, Brenda. Welcome to the
Hi.
happiest hour.
Oh, I'm so
Cheers.
excited.
Great to see
Cheers.
you. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thanks for agreeing to come on to the show. I wanted to have you on because I just absolutely loved your energy when we were together in Lighthouse Academy. You're always uplifting everybody around you. Your energy is so magnetic. And I thought everybody needs a sample of Brenda.
So
Everybody needs a
funny.
Brenda in their life. And so you are a woman of deep faith, and you recently had two big milestones. You
Yes.
celebrated 2 years sober
Yeah.
and you celebrated your 50th. So, what'd you do to celebrate?
What did we do? We went to Well, first of all, I have a tradition. The night before your birthday, we celebrate. I created it many years ago with my nephews, and now my whole family does it, and I do it, and we do. So we had cake, and my family sent me a pizza and another slice of cake. So we had that on May 19th. And then on my birthday, my fiance made breakfast, and then we went to Berkeley, walked around. I got a Vietnamese coffee. Oh, excuse me, Thai, Thai tea. And then we went to Albany and walked around, and then I went to the thrift store, and I was so happy with going to the thrift store, even though we were so tired. It was just a super simple, kind of just relaxing, chill walk, get that exercise in. And then we had pizza, I think. I don't remember what we had for dinner, but we had something good that I ate. And then
Oh,
I
that's
had,
awesome. So,
birthday
are
cake.
you're from the Berkeley area, the Bay Area?
I'm from the Bay Area. Yeah, I'm from San Jose, Silicon Valley. Yeah.
Very nice. So, recently you shared with me a big part of your story. And I thought there was so many great points in there that should be shared with others.
Mhm.
Um, in the fact that sometimes our drinking isn't, the same way all the time. It's not linear. Sometimes we drink more at certain times in our lives than others. And so I'll let you share that part. But if you
Sure.
would just kind of take us back a little bit to what your drinking was like in the beginning when you started drinking and how it sort of evolved.
Sure. So I started drinking, I think it was my first drink my sophomore year in high school. And I remember it was vodka because we were at school and we were dressed in our costumes, football players for, our school, my friends, whatever. And somebody had the vodka. And so we were just drinking it. And I was like, oh yeah, I want to try that. I never before wanted to drink. When I was about 11 years old, I accepted Christ as my Lord and Savior, and I just loved God. But when I entered high school, I said, "Okay, Lord, I'm gonna have to not serve you right now. I'm gonna have to like break up per se because I don't want to be a hypocrite, and I want to be able to go to parties. I want to be able to do things that I heard people in high school did." So it's kind of interesting. And then, so that's where it started, and even like smoking cigarettes and other things as well, because my school was pretty, like a really big party school. So, and that was high school.
Yeah.
So that's when it started. And then,
Can I just
I
ask you a
didn't,
question real
yeah,
quick? Sorry, I'm going to
absolutely.
interrupt you. When you started drinking, what was that feeling like for you? Did you love it? Was it like, oh, this is for me? Did it kind of help you kind of
It,
break down some of your like insecurities? Did you do it to fit in?
yeah, I think I just did it to try it because I just kind of did it. I didn't really have any thoughts, right? I knew drinking wasn't a good idea. I knew I was underage, but also I was kind of like a rebel. Like a free spirit, I guess is a better way to say that. And yeah, so I think that I just wanted to try. Also in school we did some of the kids, most of my class and other kids were drinking a whole bottle of Robitussin. It was like a thing. Did you robo? Did you robo? And so I didn't really want to do that, but then I was like, I think with that it was more peer pressure and also the curiosity, right? And so but I don't everybody was drinking except for a few people, but, like, pretty much my whole class or anybody that was in the quad, like, that was the plan. And so, I'm not I think I just really was curious. And when I did have that first drink, I didn't enjoy the taste or the feeling of heat, but I did have a lot of fun and I did love it. Like I felt like, woohoo, let's go. And so, so it was just like, I mean, I can send you this picture, but we're all in like football uniforms, sitting in the quad like area, having lunch. And I'm like this, like lying practically down on my friends and just laughing so big. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's when I saw this picture, one of the girls here posted, I said, that was that day. And so it wasn't like an ongoing thing in high school, but at parties, definitely alcohol was pushed. Like we would
Yeah.
go to a few parties and I had an accident in one of the cars, and got the nickname Cocoa Puff from some of my basketball player friends and who I was sitting next to because the driver didn't pull over fast enough. So that was really embarrassing and I never wanted that to happen again, so it didn't. So I tried to like just, be more aware of my body weight, of my, cuz it was a new thing. I didn't know what I was doing and
Yeah.
yeah. So
Sorry, I gotta take this crown off because it's meant for a 5-year-old, and I can literally feel my brain seeping out of
oh
my
yes,
head.
take it off. Those they have the
Oh my
big
I'm
prongs.
not meant to be a princess. I'm just not.
I'll send you a crown. You are.
Oh, I
You
can't
just
get
get
it
the
off.
little one. Or you know what you could do is you could get one of these. See, I love this.
Yeah. Okay. So after high school, did you go on to college? Did you start working? What was after high school?
So
Um,
after high school, I went to college for 1 semester. My boyfriend at the time, I think he was at the same college as me. Well, he was older and he was in a fraternity, or his friends were, and he lived with them. And so there were more parties there, right? A lot of alcohol. I was a senior in high school at that time. I went to junior college for a month. I really wanted to be an actor, actually, or a prima
hmm.
ballerina, but I wasn't really invested in my ballet at that time. So I dropped out. So I went 1 semester in junior college and then I moved to Southern California. I continued to drink there. I remember in that time period, my then boyfriend, who I met in high school, moved to Long Beach, and he wanted me to come down, and I wanted to get away from my family because I have 6 siblings, and my parents. It was just really busy, and not that I don't love my family, but I felt like I didn't have the ability to focus on myself because there was so much happening, and I was afraid that I was going to get lost, right, and
Yeah,
lose myself. So I
it's
moved to Long Beach,
understandable.
and that's where I realized I started to drink wine and more frequently. I got a job. I was doing some extra work as well in TV shows and game shows, but I remember my relationship was a little rocky and I started to just drink more wine. I would drink a couple glasses just to calm myself down. Like that was my answer to any like feelings of rejection, fear, or am I truly accepted because he had a roommate that didn't like me very much. And so
Mm,
I kind of delve into alcohol more there, but not to an extent where I saw myself later in life.
yeah. And then what happened in that relationship? How did
I
that
moved
end up
back.
working out?
Yeah, it didn't work out. I moved back to San Jose. Initially, I was only going to go to help my family with something. And while I was in San Jose, staying with his parents, actually, my or he contacted me and said, uh, when you come back, can you please get your own place?
Oh,
I said, "What?" And so I said, "No, I'm not gonna do that." And so I stayed in San Jose, and then I
so
met
this
a
was in your
different.
early 20s.
Yes, so I was 20. I think I was 19 or 20. So drinking
Okay.
underage wasn't a big deal at that time. I totally went to San Francisco, got my fake ID. I borrowed an ID from a coworker who was 21 and um yeah.
Okay. So then from there, did you go into the workforce and what were your 20s and 30s like?
Yeah, so in my 20s, I had to move back home. I am very gregarious, like I always pretty much have been, even as a child. And so my sister and I were driving, and I just said, "Hey," to these people. I didn't even know who they were. I didn't know if they were men, female, whatever. They happened to be these two guys, and they were like, "Pull over." And so we We are crazy. They wanted us to go over this guy's house. There's just two of them, and we're like, okay. And I said, Deborah, what are we doing? And she goes, don't worry, I have a weapon. And she had a screwdriver in her pocket. So we went in and we drank with these two guys. Like, I mean, how dangerous is that? I mean, nowadays it's not the same. This was in the early 90s, actually. I mean, mid 90s. So that was like still, I was 20, going on 21. Through those guys, I met another gentleman who I dated for a little bit, and he was more into drugs. They were tattoo artists. No, no shame on tattoo artists, not saying everybody's like that, but this specific shop in San Jose that's no longer there was heavily into drugs, not so much alcohol. So then I kind of started doing that only for a few months, and thank God I was not addicted, when that ended. But that's kind of where my story changes. During that time, my uncle would come and pick me up every Sunday to go to church, and so I would go with him. So in 1997, now I'm dating myself, I rededicated my life to the Lord, and I stopped drinking, and I got very involved in ministry. I went to Bible college. I was just really falling in love with the Lord, and unfortunately, my friend had a massive stroke at 27. He was 6 years older than me.
Oh.
So from 2000 to 2005, again, I didn't drink because I was helping him, and he became a quadriplegic, couldn't speak. So he needed somebody in the hospital, and I volunteered. I felt like that's what God put on my heart to do. And I really believe that to this day. And I thank God for that time. So I didn't drink at all during those years so I was 28 when I met this other gentleman. Seems like, and when I broke up with this last person, because that's where the drinking got crazy. I was 28 and we stayed together for 10 years off and on. Yeah. And so I was in the best actually, prior to meeting him, I met him in church. I was helping my pastors build a church. I was living with my pastors because I had to move from Modesto back to San Jose. I don't know. I settled. I tell everybody, don't ever settle, especially with friendships and dating with people that you're going to allow so close to you, right? Where you really give them a lot of power if you are not grounded in who you are, right? And the same with alcohol, like the relationship with alcohol can be very similar to these relationships that really started to define who I was, because instead of focusing on myself and how I was feeling and my gut intuition and things like that, like you had asked, I really just kind of wanted to try it. I knew alcohol was not a good idea, right? I saw the
Mhm.
negative effects of alcohol, and I saw the glamorous side too. So with this gentleman, I didn't know he was an alcoholic, but he was. And I drank excessively with him. Initially, he started out with just giving me red wine because I was like, I don't drink because I didn't drink. Just
So this was in
really
that 28 to 38 age
38. Yeah,
range.
like the
Yeah.
best time of your life, right? Like
Yeah.
you're out of college, you're doing, you're in your career or interning, or you're doing all these great things, most of the time. And yeah, so I wasted 10 years, but I also
Yeah.
learned a lot. Like I don't believe any time is wasted, because one, as being a woman of faith, right? I know that God is in control. I have my free will and I definitely took it, And there were many times I knew I should have left this man, and I just got stuck and I gained so much weight. And I literally became somebody who I didn't even know through the alcohol, through the narcissism, right? I would constantly question myself, doubt myself. And so it was easier to drink. It was easier to
Yeah.
take the shots of rum, vodka, tequila, whatever it was, because I drank mostly heavy alcohol in the latter days. And that's what he drank. And so that's how he gave me a glass of wine and I have my wine. We'd watch the show 24. And whenever Jack said, Chloe, we're running out of time, he said, we have to have a shot every time they say that. Well, they say that like 50 times in one episode.
Oh
So it was
god.
like so crazy, right? So he kind of like, and I don't blame
Yeah.
him, right? He didn't force me to do anything. I chose to do that. And I think that's where sometimes I can get stuck, right? Where it's like, well, he made me do this and he made me do that. And a friend of mine said, did he have a gun to your head? And I said, oh,
Oh.
yeah, no, it was my choice. He
So it
presented
was
an
pretty much
opportunity.
very normalized, not anybody's calling you up saying, "Hey, Brenda, you might wanna
Yes,
leave this guy or stop
exactly.
drinking." And nobody ever said that?
Uh-uh.
It's
No.
just part of your lifestyle.
In the beginning, my pastor's wife Well, they were both pastors. She did. She said, "I don't you don't why are you even giving him a chance?" Before the drinking began,
Oh,
she said, "He is not good for you." And she didn't elaborate, but it was almost like that rebellious teenager inside of me saying, "Well, she says I can't do it. Well, I'm gonna prove her wrong." Like, I'm gonna change him and he's gonna, and that's just like totally not true. I can't change
yeah,
anybody but
yeah.
myself. So
So
she
how
was
did you get
really
out of
the
that
only one.
relationship?
Yeah, it was
How did
pretty
you
intense.
That sounds
Yeah.
intense. How did you get out of that relationship?
Well, he how do I put it lightly? He tried to kill me. Um, and he was at my apartment and he was just there and I think I don't know. But anyways, that happened. And he was a big man, 6'3" and I'm 5'1". So I was lying on my couch and I was like, bye, whatever. And I said something that he didn't like and he just got on top of me and was like this. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what's happening? And I had been drinking, right? Not necessarily with him, but now drinking was part of my life. And I remember I just kicked him in the groin and he jumped up and started cussing me out and said, don't ever contact me. And I was like, are you crazy? Like, no, like I called my mother and my sister because I didn't trust myself. None of that kind of behavior ever happened at with him. So it was very shocking. And that's like a non-negotiable. I'm like that's total like but what hurts my heart sometimes is and what made me look internal during that time after I broke up with him and he left and was that why did I stay so long? Why did I wait till it got so bad to finally say, wow, he's a really, he's not the right person. And so from there, I went and I stayed with my sister and my mom for a little while in the same area just because I was scared. We called the police. I went to the hospital, I mean, did all those things that you should do. And the officer that came to my apartment the next day when I called before I moved with my sister and my mom for a little bit, he was an amazing man. And then he ended up passing 2 weeks later. It was just such a devastating, traumatic time. But thank God I wasn't drinking, which was interesting to me. And when I look back at that, I think, like I've talked about before, I do not label myself an alcoholic. Like I couldn't do certain programs because you have to stand up and say, my name is Brenda and I'm an alcoholic. I would rather say, my name is Brenda and I am alcohol free. Like and I appreciate that all the programs that help people. I just knew for me, I needed to go a little bit deeper and I'm very big on words, right? And like I want to speak life into my life. I don't want to keep on saying like something not so much negative, but I don't want to label myself because I know that's a behavioral thing that for me, right? Everybody's
Yeah.
different. Everybody's story is different with alcohol. That began a 4 year, so for 4 years, I wasn't drinking and I was so happy. And I even asked my doctor, I said, I used to drink and how's my liver? She goes, it's fine. And she was explaining to me about the liver because I was really scared because I knew that I drank like almost like a binge drinker with him.
Were you deliberately in those 4 years trying not to drink, or it just kinda happened because you were trying to get your life together?
Yeah, it just happened. So what I did was I went to counseling. I was trying to find a trauma therapist and I ended up just getting I don't know what happened, but the therapist I had was great, but it was more of me talking and her just saying, it's going to be great or get a container when we're not together and put it in there. And it was helpful, but I really saw that I was the common denominator, right? In all of these situations where I was kind of looking for love in the wrong places or just settling. So I recognized that there was an issue in my heart. Like, why wasn't I loving myself enough to recognize these patterns? Because they were patterns. And how could I go from not drinking to drinking like so many shots or finishing like a bottle, within a 24-hour time period? And by the way, I have a huge high tolerance to many things. Just I think it's probably genetics because my family, history, but my ancestors and stuff. So it was interesting because I wasn't like, I need to get help. I need to do this. While I was dating that gentleman, I did go to a sober living environment. Actually, I forgot about that. My sister actually was recommending that. I have 4 sisters. So I took her up on that. And so I went and it was interesting. It was very helpful. So I think I learned a lot of tools there as well prior to breaking up with the guy. And
Mm.
at that time in Santa Cruz area, I got a DUI because I had been drinking in my apartment. I'm backing up, sorry.
So while you were with him, you got the
Yes,
DUI?
while I was with him, because those are 2 really important parts because I really believe that first push of my sister lovingly talking to me about this and saying, have you thought about how much you're drinking?" And they're all younger than me, right? And all my
Mm.
siblings. And I just thought, "No, not really." I said, "But I think you have a point." And so she started researching sober living environments. And so I went to one in Santa Cruz and I enjoyed it. It was very different. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. But the people that were there, the women that were there were very genuinely wanting to be, in recovery, like whether it was drugs or alcohol. And the rules were if you were drunk or high and you came to that house, like, right, you could go out and come in, you would have to leave. And it didn't matter if you had nowhere to sleep. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered. If you were drunk or high, you cannot be there because it's a safe environment. And we would meet like every night or every whatever, check-ins. And so that was really helpful. That was my first taste of a sober community. That was really amazing. But then I moved out and I don't remember why I was drinking, but I was drinking very heavily. I was still with the guy, so I think I was really bothered and hurt and sad. I think now looking back, I saw that I was betraying myself. I was betraying what I believe in, right? Like I should be treated with dignity and respect. I am created in the image of God. Like I have value. So instead of doing that and speaking these things into my life that are truth, I just picked up a bottle because it was easier to numb that
Yeah.
sadness. And so somebody parked in my spot and I parked my car in the alley. They left. It was night. My car had some issues. Instead of just leaving my car there, knowing that I had been drinking, I said, well, I'm just going to turn around and just park it in my spot. Right when I left, and I wasn't swerving, I know I wasn't doing anything, you know, I didn't do anything illegal, except for that I was drinking and then I got behind the wheel, which is not good in any way, shape, or form. And they pulled me over. I went to jail and I got a DUI. So, in a way, I was so upset, but in a way, I really believe that was a divine intervention, that DUI, because it really woke me up like, wow, this is really bad, Brenda. Like, first
Yeah.
of all, if you were just drinking and yeah, your car was there, but you would know, right? Like, I can't get in the car. I am
Yeah.
drunk or I have been drinking happened before we
So
broke.
how that was around the breakup time?
So 2009 was when that happened and we broke up in 2015.
Oh.
So
So, like,
but he
halfway through the relationship?
Yeah, halfway,
Yeah.
midway, yeah.
So now
And
you get
then
out of the relationship,
yeah,
you're living in sober living, and
or
now you have
before.
4 years.
Yeah,
What's that?
yeah.
Is
I
that
was
right?
living in sober living while we were dating, but when I got out of the relationship, I didn't have to try to be sober. It was easy. I was in therapy. Started going back to my church, a different church, got involved, was in a 3-year Bible study, had really a lot of support and friends. I did go to AA, met some friends there. I got a sponsor. We didn't finish the steps, but in a way, I was working on my sobriety actually, but that was like secondary to everything else. So, but I just also wanted to make sure that I didn't go back because I did see that, right? But it was just a very interesting time. And then 2019 was when my grandmother passed, and that's when I just flipped out. I didn't know what to do without her, although she had been bedridden for quite some time. But it was a very, very devastating loss. Very
So that was a
devastating.
time when you kinda slowly went back to
I
drinking
did.
again.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember standing at the grocery store and I had a bottle of alcohol on the thing, right? And I was standing there staring at it going, I shouldn't buy that. Well, I'm not going to really drink it. No, I shouldn't do that. I'm like literally watching like, and then
Mhm.
I pay and I'm like, what am I doing? Because I knew that that wasn't the right decision for me, but I did it anyway. And so, I just that's where like why I joined the sober community, Gen Sober community, and this in 2024. I just remember not wanting to feel the pain, not wanting to believe that she was really gone. I felt regret, I felt disappointed in myself, and I didn't know how to deal with that. And I didn't
Yeah.
know who to call. I remember being on like hotlines, just like prayer lines, or if you're feeling suicide, I wasn't suicidal, but I just needed to talk to somebody, but it never helped, right? Because I was just kind of saying the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And so then I just pick up the bottle and it became like a very expensive in so many ways decision, not just financially, but emotionally, mentally, physically, and relationally. One of my sisters, the same one that was looking up sober living environments back in 2007 or 8, in 2019ish, she was like, I can't talk to you anymore. You have to stop drinking. I can't do this anymore. So it was a very interesting time. And then I started seeing a psychiatrist for my depression, grief, and that my doctor recommended. I went on a leave of absence because I couldn't function. It was so bizarre. I never felt that kind of loss. And I've lost people before, but I've never felt that.
Really, just the last year, that's what the last year of your drinking looked like?
No. Then the 1-year anniversary of her death in 2020, I got so drunk. I had met my fiance now in July 2020 because we both worked at the same company. I was supposed to go meet his parents in December. She passed December 22nd, 2019. I didn't go to her funeral, nothing. So that day was the day that we were supposed to go, and I was just belligerently wasted. I couldn't even pack a bag. I didn't even know what I was doing. It was like, I remember, I didn't like black out, but I remember how hurt he was. And I didn't know him for very long, right? And I was actually kind of
Yeah.
freaked out to go meet parents after only, knowing somebody for like 4 to 5 months. And I picked up again at that time, 2020. And then 2021, I got diagnosed with a meningioma, which is the brain
Oh, yeah.
surgery that I had. And again, felt so alone. I was so scared. So I saw this kind of like fear and all of these other emotions that I didn't want to feel. I would try to numb them with alcohol until the alcohol wasn't numbing things. It was making things exponentially worse. And I
Yeah.
love to have fun and I love to be generous and I love to just, be myself. But that alcohol really dimmed the light. Like I was just like in the dark and in despair because I didn't want to have brain surgery. So 2023, fast forward. So I'm drinking, 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 stopping, then drinking, then stopping from 2021 to 2023. And then I was not drinking as much. And my fiance, he doesn't drink. And so that wasn't a problem for him, and which was really great. Because I don't know, I don't think that we would still be together if I had continued to drink to cover my pain and my regret and the trauma that was still there from my ex, that I've been working on, and different things. I'm definitely a lifetime learner, as we all are. And so fast forward to nowadays, 2024, I moved in January 2024 here to Richmond so that he could care for me 24/7. 2023, my father passed away in September. My grandmother, his mom, passed away in March. And so 2023 was a really difficult year. But thank God I didn't turn to alcohol like I did with my maternal grandmother. I really had the support of my fiance. My father loved him. My grandmother loved him. And he was really there for me. And so I saw how much that support from another person who really loves you and can empathize with you really helps, right? So I was able to grieve them. I still grieve them. I still miss them. I always will. And so then 2024, I had my brain surgery in February. I wasn't drinking. I was on a lot of medication and a lot of steroids. And so the steroids, I didn't know the side effects of them. So I wanted to drink and we got into an argument over that. It was just a crazy time of recalibrating, right? Especially after such an acute surgery. It was very aggressive, I should say. And so my drinking picked back up at a friend's wedding just that night. And then I wasn't drinking. That was in April. May, my birthday. We went on a cruise, 2024. I was 48 and I got very drunk and I made a lot of mistakes. So 2 days later, I was just like, this is not worth it. My life is more important than I keep on wanting to grab this, but this is non-alcoholic. My life is more important. So it's just like what I see when I look back is a girl who was afraid to love herself, And now I really wanted to talk more about now, and it's just an amazing journey. And what the one thing I would say for anybody that is sober curious, that is, I've tried 20 times and nothing works, one is community. Paula, when I joined LHS, I was like, it's X amount of dollars a month. I'm going to do everything. Not because I needed to get sober and I wanted to stay sober, but because of the investment. So I
Yeah.
really firmly believe like when we have to pay for something, we do value it more, right? Versus a
Mhm.
free thing. It's true. And so I remember, and it just helped so much to hear other women who have similar feelings, who have faced similar, like, awkward moments, right? You're with your friends, you go to a bar, and they're all, like, throwing down, and you're like, "I'll have a Red Bull," or "I'll have a water with lime," It's like,
Yeah.
or now there's mocktails. But it's like, because that was so normal to some, right? So it's just really
Yeah.
amazing to be in a sober community. But I remember, like, after that second month or so, third month, I was getting a little like, well, maybe I'm okay. Maybe. And I had to remind myself of all the other times that, you know, I still do not say I'm an alcoholic because I
Yeah.
know I'm not. Like, I know I can live without it, but it was a choice that I made that wasn't a good choice for me, right? And so I
Yeah.
choose to be alcohol free, and I choose to drink Martinelli's, right? Instead of, or Frey champagne. I love that champagne,
Yeah.
that's alcohol free. And when I really believe, when you are able to love yourself the way you are right now today, when you can love yourself and look at yourself in the mirror, yeah, I may have like gray hair and I may have this and that or whatever, but I know inside I am loved. I am accepted. I am celebrated. I am important. I do have a voice that needs to be heard, and I am creative, and I am smart. I can make good decisions for my life because I'm worth it. And
Mhm.
I may not be where I want to be, right? But I'm not where I used to be with or without alcohol, because there was obviously something there where I was reaching outward for things to numb me, but it couldn't reach where I needed the healing. And so
Nice.
that's the journey that I'm on now, is really a lot of remembering things like self-discovery and just being almost like not childish, but childlike, right? Remembering my
Yeah.
dreams and thinking, okay, I want to dance again. I used to worship dance when I was in church in the late 90s. So this Sunday on the 31st, I'm going to dance at church. I am overweight. I also broke my ankle in two places. I don't feel like 100% prepared, but I do feel confident. And this is something that is such a blessing and such an opportunity to remind me again of who I am, but also to worship God and to thank Him
Mhm.
for his grace, and his mercy. And he never left me or forsook me when I was making all these bad decisions. But I would absolutely recommend a community, even if it's just one other person that wants to get sober, or because I saw Jen's Instagram things way before I joined her Lighthouse Sobriety. I didn't want to join a group. I don't know why, but I did. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I did. And I'm so grateful for the academy and things like that. And all of the
Wow.
NA options too, that are
So would you
yummy.
say that's what keeps you sober today? Community, non-alcoholic options, and to me, I hear a lot of gratitude.
Yeah. Very grateful. Very, because I think about things and situations I had, just the two guys that we met where I met my ex, we could have been killed. I mean, there were so many dangerous situations that I put myself in where I'm really grateful that I'm alive.
Mm.
I'm grateful that I have time. Life is so precious. And I don't think I realized that ever until I started
Yeah.
losing people,
Mm.
especially my father. And I lost my uncle this year in January. I thank God. My gratitude too is that instead of just saying, okay, I don't drink and being angry about it, like, oh, I can't do that, I'm like, it's not even about the drinking, it's about something deeper for
Mhm.
me, you know? Because I was using that as medication, I was self-medicating, and it was easy and it was comfortable and it was known, right? Now I'm kind of like,
Wow.
okay, what's the unknown? Okay, I'm going to dance at church. And I've been practicing and I'm excited about it. And I thank God for that. I thank God for
Yeah.
you, Paula. You are such a light
Aw.
yourself. Super magnetic. Every single time I see one of your posts or anything, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love it. So I think seeing people who are actually like loving their life, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I love mine too. It's just like,
Yeah.
you
That's
know,
awesome, Brenda. I love it.
yeah.
Yeah, I love my sobriety way more than I want a drink, and that's what keeps
Yes,
well, a lot of things keep me sober, but that's the gist of it, right? To
exactly.
love your life more than you wanna do that.
Yes, it's so
But to get to a
valuable.
point where you can see it so clearly and see the truth of all
Yes.
that is that's the gift.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, definitely what you just said keeps me sober for sure. Community and being really open about it, not being
Oh, yeah.
ashamed because we're all different.
Uh,
I think that was a big deal for me. Like I felt
Yeah, a
really
lot of women are
embarrassed.
still a lot of shame. They still
Hmm.
hold on to that. And that kind of that does make a lot of people relapse because
Yeah.
they can't let go of the shame. What helped you get rid of the shame that were holding on to?
I started I recognized it kind of all along that I wanted to make people like me, right? So I was gonna be whatever they needed me to be, which is totally not okay. I know that's not anybody's fault, but the shame, I feel like as I started to really be honest and open and transparent about myself, about my feelings, allowing myself to feel my feelings, allowing myself to not stay there and replacing these like, I'll never be good enough. I'll always be overweight. I was never overweight, but really truly, I think what the first part was accepting myself where I am right now. Just saying, Brenda, I love you, right? Looking in the mirror, Brenda, I love you. And I have like a list of things from one of the preachers, and then the Bible, reminding myself who I am. But I think really, truly just saying, yeah, I've made a lot of mistakes, but I did the best I could with what I had at the time. For
That's
whatever
it.
reason, I chose alcohol and bad relationships.
Yeah.
And I think just really being transparent about that and being transparent
I
about
love
how
that.
I will never be perfect until I get to heaven, but it's a different ball game there. But it's like also not to compare myself with others. Did I tell you that I wanted the happiest hour as my Instagram thing? And I
You
remember I was like,
did?
yes, because I was thinking, okay, what's a good, I go, happiest hour because happy hour, happy hour, happy hour, right? I'm like, but this is the
Yeah.
happiest because you're fully present. You're like
Yeah.
yourself. Like there's no
Yeah.
masks, I was, like, all excited,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Wait a minute, what? Somebody has it?" And then I didn't even know it was you, Paula, and I was like, "Oh, who is
Oh.
that?" And I'm like, "Even her picture is so cute," but that comparison, right? And so then I was like, "Okay, Brenda, you can't be comparing. She got it first, just let it go," and I was like, "Well, maybe I can add, like, this line, a underscore and a this and that." I said,
Mm,
"No, it's not the same, like, just let her fly, like,
that's
go
so
girl."
funny.
And so, like, as I accept myself, I'm able to see these things as
Yeah.
like, that's awesome. Like, that's my people right there. Instead of being
Yeah.
like, "Ugh, I can't believe it. And so just really being able to recognize that we all are so gifted and talented and like valuable, not only to our families and our friends, but to the world. Like just, when you're walking down the street and you smile at somebody and say hi, and they might not say hi back, but then like 5 seconds later, they're already past you. So hi, or whatever. But people need to be seen and heard and valued and know that they're not alone. And so when I see your posts, I'm just like, this is the best. Like I still didn't know you were
Mm.
you, right? Because we were in the same academy and it was
That's
early
funny.
on. And I remember thinking, wow, she's really good. And like just because you share like so good from your heart, like not,
Mm,
excellent, like what you share is so relatable because it's real, right?
yeah.
It's real and it's you. It's who you really
Yeah.
are. Like,
Yeah.
like the you were dancing with your son and then the dog and I was just like, "Yes, that's what everybody wants is that
Yeah.
connection, to love and be loved without any strings attached, right?" So,
I love
yeah,
that you
so
say that about self-acceptance, because that's
yes.
really it, getting rid of the
Yeah.
shame is just acknowledging that we did the best we could with what we had
Yeah,
and accepting it for what it is. Because
yeah,
beating myself up didn't get me sober. That
exactly.
just kept me stuck in that cycle.
Yes. Hmm.
So when we can have some self acceptance and self love and give ourselves the grace to move forward, that's when we can begin to heal and really find ultimate freedom.
Yes. Yes.
So I love that you mentioned the
Yeah.
acceptance because
Yeah. That was the
that's
first.
that's a lot there.
Yeah,
So
it's so loaded. Like that was the first what I remember during a counseling session and my counselor said, "Repeat this." And I was like, "What?" Of course I accept my in my head. As I started to repeat, I accept myself. I just started crying. And it was really like a come to Jesus moment, like where I was coming back to myself. Like I haven't been doing that and these tears were healing, you know? So that was like
yeah,
actually probably the first thing that really helped me start dropping that shame, start accepting
yeah.
myself as who I am, start recognizing that I'm really, I'm who I am and some people are not going to like me very much and that's okay. Maybe I might make some people uncomfortable. Maybe I'm too loud. I know my fiance sometimes says, "Can you talk just a little bit
So what's
lower?"
next for you, Brenda? I mean, are you going to start coaching? I know you're involved in the church, so you're giving back, you're paying it forward there. What's next for Brenda?
Well, in the sobriety realm, I've been thinking about it, right? It's just about timing for me. I had another surgery in April, which thank God I'm
Oh,
better from. It was not a big one, but there were a little bit of complications, but everything's great. Gallbladder. And it just, I know I'm to be learning and growing, but I really do feel like I need to get back plugged into the sobriety world, the sober, the alcohol free. So I'm gonna share my story in a sober community in July. The skies are the limits, right? When you finally choose you and choose to be healthy and not have alcohol in your life, it's a toxin, right? I want to plan a wedding. But I really want to start investing more into the sober community, even if it's just posting more on Instagram. I would like to start coaching. I just know that right now, there's so much in my life that's happening, a wedding, a lot of parties, family stuff. My fiance's family lives in the other area. We're supposed to take a 3-month trip to Europe. So like there's all these different little
yeah.
facets,
And
and
all these
then
things are so much easier to take on when we're
yes.
alcohol free,
Oh
right?
my goodness. Yes. I want to go to Hawaii to help in Maui. When you said that, I thought of Hawaii 2022. Alcohol was highly involved. And then Hawaii 2025 and 2026 were amazing. Alcohol free. We saw some kind of a comet or something. One night we saw turtles. We swam with it was just amazing. And then we were with
Yeah.
friends and it just really is better. It's
Yeah.
the life I never knew I wanted?
Oh, I love
How could I
that.
take away this one facet and it unplugs like all these hopes and dreams? And, it's like I feel like I'm in a child in a candy store, like, oh my gosh, I can have anything? Yes, anything's
It's
possible.
so true. It's like,
So,
how did nothing change, but everything changed?
yes, exactly. So I do have a YouTube channel, so maybe I'll start talking more about sobriety there. I
Oh,
I mean,
I'd
it's
love to
not a
hear
big thing,
more.
but
You need to
yeah.
be spreading more Brenda everywhere. I mean, I just adore you, and you shared such a great story today that is your story, but
Yeah.
so many tidbits and so many pieces that you went a little bit deeper. I love that. And your spirituality and your faith bring out in you. And you're just such a bright light. So thank you for your
Thank you.
vulnerability, most of
Yeah,
all today, and sharing who you are. So thank you so much. I want to have a follow up with you and talk
absolutely.
about even more things that are on the horizon.
Yeah. Yeah. I might write a book.
Sound good?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been so much fun. Truly the happiest hour. And it could be any
Cheers.
hour. Cheers.
All right. Cheers,
Cheers.
Brenda. I'll talk to you
Cheers,
later.
Mama. Thank you.